Welcome to another episode of the Same Difference podcast. Today we're tapping into a conversation that doesn't happen nearly enough: men's mental health and what it really means to have a safe space. I'm sitting down with a special guest from St. Croix, a psych nurse practitioner student working on her master's in nursing with a focus on psychiatric care and mental health. We're talking about the silent weight a lot of men carry, why it's so hard to ask for help, and how we can build spaces online, in relationships, and in our communities where men can show up as their whole selves. Let's get into it. Nisi, what you say? How you doing? How you doing?
Good evening, everybody, and thanks for joining us this evening. As Jah says, we have a very great episode in store for you. As your advocate for men's health, because you know I'm all about the men doing their thing, getting better, being striving healthy. So I'm glad we have someone who can give us some knowledge of the topic, and we're happy to looking forward to what we have in store.
All right, with no further ado, we have Nurse Nai. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the people, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Naiema Durand. Have been a nurse for about 6 years. Most of my background is in labor and delivery, but I've also had some background in home health nurse case manager positions as well. And throughout my nursing journey, I realized how much the Virgin Islands has been lacking in mental health. So I decided to pursue a career in getting my master's to become a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. So I am like right at the edge, almost towards the end of finishing my program. So I am honored to be here to give my insight, give some feedback on my perspective on men's mental health. So looking forward to speaking with you guys, and thank you for tuning in. Thank you for Jah and to Jah and Nisi for having me as well.
Of course, of course. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you. It's Men's Mental Health Month. We
Yeah.
do special episodes like this, for Father's Day, Men's Mental Health, and Valentine's
Mhm.
Day and stuff. And I actually saw you did a video and you were transparent. You were actually honest and said that you just recently found out that this is Men's Mental Health. You want to talk Mental Health Month? You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so I started a platform named Safe Space Submissions. And basically, with Safe Space Submissions, it's a free platform where I use Google Forms and people are able to submit their stories. And I've been having a lot of participants submit stories and I'm able to give feedback. It's almost like I call it a free venting session where you remain anonymous and you can submit your story and get some feedback from me and the community. And actually, one of my participants, the first male, actually came on, I want to say towards the end of May. And by the time I got to his submission, it was about June 3rd. And I was scrolling through TikTok about to upload his video. And I noticed that I saw a video that popped up that said, this is June is Men's Mental Health Month. And I was like, what? I had never heard, I'm going to be so honest. I had never heard, I've never known that we actually have a month to celebrate men's mental health. So I thought that was really significant and I wanted to at least put that out in my video and then, talk about it a little bit.
And we appreciate you being transparent like that, because especially since you're in the field and you know what I mean, like that's your focus is psychiatric care. Some people might not have admitted that considering, so we appreciate you.
Definitely.
What made you decide to go this route, the psychiatric nursing with the focus on mental health?
Well, for me personally, I honestly decided to go into mental health because of the lack of attention and focus that we put on mental health in our community. Since the hurricane in 2017, we lost our third floor in the hospital, and we have not had a psychiatric unit for our patients. We don't really focus on our homeless population. I feel like there are a lot of crimes that's being committed, as much as it's sad to say, on island. And I feel like a lot of those things are stemming from us not having the proper resources, the proper providers, the number of providers to even care for those populations. So as much as I have a passion for healing, I feel like our community genuinely needs something like this. So I saw an opportunity to jump in and help my community, and that's honestly the reason why I did it.
Greetings, greetings. Big up yourself, Sosa. And when you say our community, which community are you referring to?
I think the Virgin Islands in general, I'm speaking directly to St. Croix because that's where I live. That's where I have most of my experience on. But I'm pretty sure that the entire Virgin Islands needs help with mental health as well.
Facts, facts. Nisi, I'll let you take it away. What questions do you have?
So I'm glad you said also that you started as a nurse and then you transitioned. What made you pivot over to this side? What piqued your interest that you're now kind of venturing into this new phase of your life?
Honestly, going through my healing journey. I've been going through my healing journey, I would say honestly, for about 4 years now. And to be an individual where you've been through so many things in your life that you've been operating from a place of trauma for so long, and then you finally get to a point where you start your healing journey and you start to realize that a lot of the ways that we think and operate in life is because of the experiences that we've had. And so, because I've seen how much of an impact focusing on our mental health can have with the way that on the way that we show up in the world, is a reason why I said, you know what, I want to jump into mental health. And I don't just want to be a provider that can prescribe medication. I actually want to jump in and help make a change, help people to heal, help people to grow, so that we don't continue to live in a place of trauma.
Love it, love it. I love it.
Thank you.
No, you're in a particularly challenging field, especially in the Virgin Islands, because there are issues in the healthcare space, especially. Let's just say that we ain't gonna call them names. The hospitals, the lack of facilities, and lack of funding. How do you deal with that? Or what has been your, I guess, your experience dealing with that home in the Virgin Islands?
Without going into too much detail, I can say things are tough. Things are tough. Things are not in a good position in the Virgin Islands. I really do feel like our healthcare system needs a lot of help. We need a lot of support. Our nurses need a lot of help and support. Our providers need a lot of help and support. And I think this is an area where we really need to put some focus on, because at the end of the day, we're a small island. We have one hospital, even on St. Thomas and St. John as well, one hospital where we're expected to cater to all of these individuals. And, I understand that some people think that we may be able, or we should be able, to fly off island for care. But when you get into emergency situations where we don't have hours, we don't have days, like people's lives are at risk and we have minutes to seconds to get them that care that they need, we need to have these facilities on island so that we can care for our people the right way. I think I'll leave it at that.
Woo! Oh, you talking
Yes.
that talk? You
Yes.
talking that talk? I like it. I like that. I like that. You see, what you got? I know you had a share of questions yourself. What else you got?
I mean, there's always questions, and I just want to say before we really get into it, like, thank you for being here, transparent, and willing to share what you're learning, both as a Crucian who's seen the plight on the streets, as well as what you're experiencing through your medical journey with learning. So I do appreciate the transparency, and the answer so far is just, it's
Yeah.
when I get excited about guests, which is
What? Why did it? What?
Thank you.
What fingers is it?
Dano, when I get excited, I'll be like. So let's get into some of the questions, of course, because that's why you're here, and we definitely want to address those things. So one of the things that I am interested in knowing is what have you as you're transitioning into this next phase, what have you been seeing in terms of are men the steepest learning curve that they have in terms of learning about and managing their mental health?
Well, because I just started my medication management class. The previous semester, I did therapy, and I had an opportunity to work with Tariq and Tamara from Greater Changes. And some things that I've noticed, and I can honestly say that I've realized that it's I can't say, and I think society thinks that men don't want assistance or they don't want the help, and I don't think it's necessarily that. I feel like a lot of men are actually crying out for help in different ways, and you can even see it based on some of the behaviors that we have been shown. I just think that we probably don't have safe enough environments where men feel like they're able to trust individuals to come and open up about the things that they're going through, and then to have a community that's able to support them. So I think that's one of the biggest things that I've seen, and I think that's something that we could definitely start trying to work on addressing.
Nice, nice. King Sosa says we were conditioned, especially in the Caribbean. Do you agree with that? That we were conditioned? I'm assuming he means conditioned to be strong. Do you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I agree with that assessment. And I say that because I feel like when we think about how boys are raised, it's like, don't you're not supposed to cry. Like, why are you crying? If you cry, you're acting like a girl, And then I feel like men are not taught to have emotions, to express your emotions, to put words to the feelings that you're having. And I think one of the only emotions that seems to be acceptable for men or normal for men is anger. And I feel like once we get to that position, or once men get to that position, we understand that men can take it from 0 to 100. So instead of putting, I guess, too much awareness on the fact that men get angry, I think we need to look a little bit deeper and try to figure out, like, where is that anger stemming from? Is it from hurt? Is it from him being embarrassed? Is it from something else that he's been going through from childhood that he just doesn't know how to express? And I feel like men are conditioned absolutely to be strong and not be emotional. I agree with that.
Nice. No, I don't know what happened with the audio just now, but like now you sound far away. Some shifted maybe. You might want to check that. Well,
Okay.
as a
Can you hear me?
psych nurse practitioner student from St. Croix, what have you noticed about how Caribbean men are taught to handle their emotions, and how does that show up in your work and your studies? So this is a two-part question.
Yeah, so I think, can you hear me better now?
I don't know what happened. Nisi, how you hearing? How's she coming in?
Yeah, there's a. I mean, she's clear, but there's definitely a change in how she's coming over.
All right. Well, we could rock with you. We could hear it. We could hear you.
Okay, can you repeat your question for me?
All right. As a psych nurse practitioner student from St. Croix, what have you noticed about how Caribbean men are taught to handle their emotions, and how does that show up in your work and your studies?
So I think this stems back to the previous question that Sosa mentioned, where I feel like men are conditioned to not express themselves, to not express emotions, to not show any form of vulnerability. And showing up in my studies, one situation that I can recall was having a session with a client or one of my clients during my practicum. And it was a man who was going through some issues. He had been going through issues for a really long time. And in his community's eyes and his friends' eyes, it was something that he should have been over, long, long before. But it's been a few years and he's still transitioning into trying to regulate himself and get the help that he needs. And I feel like when men are showing that form of vulnerability, I think it's important to have the community to back them up and to understand that everyone processes things differently and people shouldn't be rushed into healing. Healing takes time, it's going to happen at their own pace. And it shows that, again, that men really do need a supportive community to back them up, especially when they're taking the positive steps to heal themselves.
Why do you think men don't get that support?
I think stigma that men need to be strong, men need to be the leaders, protectors, providers, and showing any form of weakness may feel like, well, and I say weakness very loosely, but any form of weakness may seem like they're not as competent to lead, protect, and provide. And I don't agree with that.
Okay. When you hear the term safe space for men, what does that actually look like in real life?
Mm. So safe space for men in real life. I feel like having someone, at least one person that you can come to, that you can speak to, that you can talk about the things that you're going through. Having that person be willing to genuinely listen to you, not to respond or not to control your actions, but to listen to understand what you're going through. And I think something else that we have to take into consideration with safe spaces is transparency and honesty. So also being able to be transparent with that individual to let them know, hey, I think you're doing this correctly. I think this can be adjusted. But at the end of the day, recognizing that it's not our place to heal anyone, it's not our place to control anyone's actions and behaviors. And people are allowed to make sound decisions for themselves. But ultimately, having some place to come back to where I can say, even though my friend may not agree with me 100%, or this person may not agree with me 100%, I trust their judgment. I feel safe here, and I'm open to coming back and having those conversations with that person.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. I love it. You're going to school for this. You're actually training for this, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so usually we don't have experts, it's just people opinion. I want people to realize she's going to school for this, right? So
Yeah.
now I'm sure you're on social media. Your social media presence is awesome. Like your videos, they look
Thank you.
amazing, right?
Thank you.
Now, how do you deal with, as somebody that's getting the training, somebody that's doing the work, how do you deal with you knowing the terms and what they mean, and then you go on social media and you see people using those terms incorrectly, and it's a whole other thing, because it seems like everybody has a therapy word, but
Mhm.
what do you how do you deal with that, and how do you stop it?
So when you say a word, give me an example of like what you mean.
Okay, like trauma bonding. A lot of people
Hmm.
use the word. They use OCD, they use narcissist, they use these words online, but they don't know what they mean for real, for real.
Hmm.
So as you like go through school and you're seeing this online also, like, oh, I see what stimming, I see words like, you know, every day I see like there's another word, therapy word, that's being used and misused. How do
Hmm.
we get away from that, and like how do we deal with that anyway? What would you suggest?
Okay. So I think one term I know what you're talking about, and I feel like one term that gets thrown around loosely is narcissist. Like he's a narcissist, she's a narcissist. And I feel like even with those situations, I think education is the most important thing. Trying to educate individuals and not necessarily targeting people, but maybe putting out more informative videos on what these diagnoses are, what because when you're diagnosing someone with these conditions or traits, they have to check off an actual checklist. Like you have to have like five or more traits from this, like six or more traits from that before someone can actually diagnose you as a narcissist or as someone with bipolar disorder or depression or all of these things. So I think on my end, I appreciate that you said that because maybe that's something I should start doing is putting out more informative videos on what these diagnoses are and what these traits actually relate to. And sometimes people may think that people have narcissistic behaviors, but when you think about it, sometimes people are just not kind people. People are sometimes a-holes to be as respectful as possible, but doesn't necessarily mean that they're a classic narcissist. So,
Mm.
informative videos, putting out some more information out there to help the community understand what these terms really mean.
True, because we definitely could use it. We definitely could use it. Go ahead, Nisi.
No, I think that's really important because, like she said, I mean, people use, especially the narcissist, very loosely, and that has to be clinically diagnosed. Now, if you're dating a bum, you're dating a bum.
Correct.
But now when you fall out of love, now he's a narcissist. You know what I mean? Like that's not the
Yeah.
right way to use the terminology or to implement those things. But I
Mhm.
do agree with you with putting out more information. Education is key. Comprehending the information is also crucial. But one of the things I
Definitely.
wanted to piggyback on that you said it about is about transparency. And I know you're just kind of starting in this journey, how do you see men, the men that are coming in, is it hard for them to be transparent in terms of what's happening with them mentally, compared, like, like as women, we go to the doctor, sometimes we downplay what the issues really are, because we don't want
Mm-hmm.
them to be digging or prodding too much. We'd be like, no, it don't really hurt. So but like, for the men, do they have that same approach to their mental health in terms of being transparent, for because they're afraid of maybe being diagnosed with something or labeled, or as I should say.
I think so. I think women are a lot more receptive to seeking healthcare in general, not just even mental health. I think it's much more of, I don't know if to say hesitance on the men's side, but I definitely would say that men are a lot more hesitant to seek healthcare or to seek mental health care than women typically are. The reasoning behind that, judgment, maybe lack of trust in the healthcare community, maybe fear of being seen as though they're soft or they're not strong enough because they need help. Definitely maybe a fear of being diagnosed with something and now feeling like they're being labeled as something that they don't want to identify as, maybe running away from it because of medications. In the Caribbean, we have a stigma with taking medications. We don't want to take meds because, X, Y, and Z and what we've been taught and told. So I think there's a lot of factors that play into that.
And us as men, in general, we don't like to go to the doctor. You know what I'm saying? When you think
Mhm.
annuals, it's not men that you're considering going to the doctor like that. So then to take the stigma of it's a strong stigma in the black community as a whole, not just Caribbean, where it's like if you do go to see someone about your mental health, you're either off or you're weak. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like we just I feel like we just dismissed a lot of people as para. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
how do
Easier
we
to label them that way, yeah.
yeah, how do we change that? Because we diagnose them as para
Hmm.
and then we just he para and watch them go by and nothing else happens. What do we do?
Tell me your question again.
How do we in our community, at least let me say it this way, how do we begin the conversation on getting men to get help?
Can we start by redefining what the word strong means?
Ooh, explain.
I
Sure.
so so I say that to say, when we think of strong, we think of independent, doing everything on your own, not asking for help, not needing any support. And I get that, yes, that's a form of being strong, but can we also talk about how hard it is to ask for help? How hard it is to seek assistance? So when we think about being strong can also mean admitting that you're not okay right now, admitting that you need some assistance, you need some help, you need some guidance, you need some support. I think it all starts with reframing the way that we've been brought up to believe what the word strong means, and to normalize admitting that it's okay to need help in the moment.
And Sosa says you have to unlearn what it means to be a man, which is difficult. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I wanna point out these comments and kind of get your thought because Sosa has he's become very vulnerable and transparent, and I applaud his growth because it's difficult, especially when you
Yeah.
live on island as a man, to say things like this. So Nisi had asked, when did you discover there's a better way? Sosa says, I got tired of the cycle, tired of failed relationships and the choices I've made in life. Went into isolation and did some real shadow work. Can you
Mm-hmm.
explain to us what shadow work is?
Mm. Yeah, I had to face myself throughout my healing journey. I think, in my understanding of shadow work, is recognizing where you may be coming up short in your life, holding space for yourself, but actually also realizing that you deserve to grow, you deserve to heal. And there are going to be things that you've been brought up to believe, things that you have been conditioned to believe, and it's okay to remind yourself to let go of those things. Give yourself grace where you have fallen short, and then allow yourself to heal and grow and give yourself the time to do that because you're literally learning to become someone that you have never been before.
Mm. I think it's important that we realize that some people just get older, they never actually mature. And
Yes,
when you do mature, you're changing. You're not the same person you was before you matured. And I
absolutely.
think we can have some issues reconciling those two people.
Hmm.
Speaking of therapy words and using words, and we really don't know what you're talking about. You made a video that I love, right? But I want you to explain what it is. You made a video recently about protecting your peace, which is something that we hear a lot. However,
Hmm.
some people are using this to avoid accountability. Some people use the term protecting my peace just to avoid somebody that they did wrong or dealing with an issue. Can you explain what protecting your peace is before I show this video?
Okay. So, my understanding or my interpretation of protecting my peace is trying to keep myself in as stable as an environment as possible. But when I say that, I meaning it means keeping yourself away from people who are trying to harm or cause more negativity in your life, but then also looking at yourself and facing the triggers that you may be having, looking deeper within yourself and trying to figure out why am I so hurt by something? Why am I so bothered by something? What's going on with me internally that's causing me to react in a certain way? Because I feel like people can push and people can provoke us, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's our decision to choose to react to that or not. Like we can be mad, but I don't have to cuss and carry on. I don't have to want to fight. I don't have to fight you for it. So I feel like diving within ourselves and trying to figure out what's going on a deeper level, doing that inner work, because I feel like inner work is one of the most important things that you can do to grow. And then eventually understanding that some people may have motives that may be to help us grow, and some people may have motives to help us stay stagnant. And we have to be able to or try to learn to decipher between the two and continue growing from there.
Awesome. So check out this clip from Nurse Nai talking about protecting her peace. This is another piece from her healing journey. Hope it helps.
Protecting my peace came from recognizing what my triggers were. And when we recognize what our triggers are and we learn to master our triggers, other people won't be able to get under our skin as much as they used to in the beginning. When you start to dive deep into yourself and analyze, okay, this is pissing me off, but then look a little bit deeper and try to figure out like, okay, but why is this pissing me off? Why am I so triggered by this? Why am I so upset by this? And then learn to or try to navigate diving deeper into and exploring those feelings and emotions. Once we're able to hone in and master those emotions, let me tell you, protecting your peace is going to be a lot of an easier job to do at that point.
I love the way you broke that down. You know what I'm saying? I love the way you broke that down. I know people say they're protecting their peace, but it's more than just isolating yourself.
Yes.
So thank you for that. Nisi, you got any more questions for her?
I just want to expand on the protecting your peace because I think that everyone always talks about, oh, they want peace, but I don't, the process to attain peace is through unpeacefulness. And
Absolutely.
you have to be able to just walk through that dark valley to find peace. And that's when you're able to see clearly, like she says, to recognize that this is a trauma for me. These are the things that triggers my trauma, and I can communicate that to you. And a good example
Mhm.
would be I was having a conversation a few months ago, and someone did something that was really, whatever. And they thought my response would be to yell and scream or to shout after them or whatever. But I spoke to them very clearly and communicated what it was. And my question to them was, if I yell and shout after you, does that fix the issue that's currently happening? or does it just add to what we are already experiencing and have to then clear that up further later? And so, but I also was able to say, if I get to this point here and I say these things, you're pushing me too far. That's recognizing my trigger, where if I can say like, hey, I'm getting quiet, or I'm getting a little hot, or I'm becoming flustered, I need a break from the conversation, I need to breathe and come back to you. Don't keep nagging a person when they're trying to communicate to you what little things can add to their triggers or their traumas. And you have to be aware to hear those things from people when they're communicating it, and also respond. And being around someone who can understand that you're communicating these things and respond effectively, because some people don't. And that's where some people run into the same cycles continually, because they're not separating themselves from people who don't recognize or constantly interrupt their peace because they don't respect the boundaries of that person's peace.
Hmm. Definitely.
I'm glad she brought that word into it too. Boundaries. That's
Mm-hmm.
another word I think gets confused and mixed up. Can you explain
Mhm.
what you've learned boundaries to mean?
Oh, I love to say your boundaries are not anyone else's responsibility to respect.
Mm,
Your boundaries are not
Mm-hmm.
anyone else's responsibility to put in place. When you put boundaries in place, it takes you setting standards for yourself and that person not doing anything. And when I say that, I mean if your boundary is you don't tolerate people calling you out of your name in relationships, or calling you like slangs or slurs. So that boundary would be you're putting that standard in place where I'm not going to tolerate this behavior. That person is not entitled or not necessarily expected to do anything. But if that boundary is crossed, for example, now they do act on it and they do disrespect you, it's our responsibility to put our foot down and enforce the boundary. And I like to say pushing it maybe two chances. And maybe not even two chances if the conversation was already had. So let's say something happens, you didn't have the boundary in place. You notice this behavior, you address it the first time. If it happens a second time, I personally would say to cut it. And I would say to cut it because if you have already made this thing clear to this individual and they intentionally do it again, I feel like people do things to test our boundaries to see how far they can get with us. And if, especially in a relationship, you're in a relationship with someone who's testing your boundaries and trying to push you past your limits, I don't feel like that's someone that you should be in a relationship with. Now, if that boundary was put in place from the beginning and that behavior happens, I don't think a second chance is needed at that point. That's my personal opinion.
You see, I feel like you just agreed with me in a low key way because Nisi said has cut people off too quick.
I was a cut-off queen.
You see? You see? They're pushing my boundaries. That's what the problem is.
That's no, no,
No?
no, no,
Okay, give me an
no.
example. Give me an
You
example of something.
you have a short it's not you have a short span for understanding, and not even understanding, for misunderstanding and stupidity. That's where that is. Okay, so there's a difference.
She says she
So a
wants.
boundary is like a hard no.
Okay.
A
Yes,
boundary is like a hard no. Like if this
yes.
happens, like this is like way past the line. Like
Like,
you
don't
know
put
how
your
people that are
hands
gonna
on
like
me.
put.
A hard no.
Yes,
You see?
yes,
Say something
yes.
stupid to Jack, and by the time you text back, the message fails because he don't block you.
You see
That's
what I'm
not a
saying? Like,
boundary.
that's a hard bound. You see what okay, here's the thing with Nisi. Nisi has soft boundaries. She's like
No,
a green stop sign. Like you check what I'm saying? Like,
no.
is it a go or what? When I'm kinda like, "Well, I'm a brick wall. Like you don't play me one time. I told you about it, don't do it no more. So she wants an example. Do you have an example, Nisi?
An example would be, okay. I can just, well, I'll just give a fake example for purposes, for this conversation purposes. Like, like you texting Ja, like, hey, I see, I see you have this page, and and I want to get to know you. And he would be like, why you want to get to know me? Well, I seen your videos and it seems interesting. And what about the videos that are interesting? Well, the things that you say, and you makes me laugh and you're really nice to look at. Okay, but what about the video? And then if they're not giving like that, by the time you get to the third, you're blocked. He done block you off the platform. And because not everybody is really quick with answering questions or being direct. And that's another thing in the Black community that we don't do enough of. I'm guilty of sometimes is not being as direct sometimes. But if you beat around if you circle that bush twice, and Ja would be like, listen, I don't cut that bush down. There's no bush in your way. Why are you trying to circle black? Like, just spit it out. And not everybody's comfortable just spitting things out immediately. Some people need to be comfortable before they can say something. He don't have time for none of that.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Ja, what's your defense on that?
Okay, so here's my thing. I speak to people the way that I want to be spoken to. I speak directly. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you ask me yes or no, well, me and you were communicating, right? You ask me a question, I answer the question, and then if you need more context or whatever, I provide it. Just because, like, I do a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm very busy. I do a lot of stuff. So I kind of want, like, get to it. Like, don't jump in my inbox, right? Don't jump in the inbox and then, hey, how you doing? How the family? What do you want? Like, what's up? You know what I'm saying? Like, them people who beat around the bush, but they want to ask you a favor. Hey, how you been? I heard you've been feeling. What's up?
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I get that you want
a boundary. That's a difference.
That's directly though.
Okay, it's hard for me to.
Is a professional. So her being able to communicate with you professionally and answer questions specifically. She's in school. She has to deal with patient care and so on and so forth. She has learned the tools to effectively work on those things to be able to do that for you. So she would not be a good example. I mean, she's a good example of how it works in your favor. But most people aren't on her level or has the type of professional education to be able to be direct, concise about certain things, because in her profession, time is health, and she has to be able to figure out things quickly in order to possibly save someone's health. And so that's why that works for her, and I'm happy it does. Everyone should have some type of that, but that's not the reality of the world.
Okay, let's back up a little bit. Let's back up.
But let's go back to where.
Hold on, let's back. Can you tell us what a boundary is? Because a boundary and a standard is not the same thing, correct?
No, and I was going to say that too.
No.
So give us an example of a boundary, and let me try again.
Okay, I'm gonna say one thing before I give the boundary statement. I understand where you're coming from, Ja, because I'm very similar to you. Get to the point, do what we need to do, get it over with. However, life has taught me that we cannot expect ourselves out of everybody. Everyone's going to come in different ways, shapes, and forms. People are going to come with different thought processes. Maybe people may have brought up to be direct as children were conditioned to be the opposite. And and maybe the opposite for us, and maybe that's the reason why we operate the way that we do. Get to the point, get to it, and get it over with. So when it comes to boundaries, I say boundaries are hard no's. Something that disrespects your morals and values, something that puts you at risk of being in harm or danger, something that you have dealt with that you will not tolerate because this thing has taken a toll on your self-esteem and has caused you to be reconditioned into becoming someone that you don't like. I feel like those things are boundaries. Disrespecting, hitting, people who steal, people who consistently lie and manipulate, things like that, I feel like are hard boundaries. I feel like communication I would give leeway to communication, because I agree with Neci. Everyone isn't able to put all of their thoughts into words to express themselves. And sometimes we may take it the wrong way, but sometimes people genuinely just don't have the skill set to do that in the moment. So if you're able to be more direct, I would just kind of gently sway the conversation directly where I need it to go, instead of assuming maybe like, what is this person trying to do? Why is this person? What are they up to? You know what I mean?
Okay, all right, I understand. So for me, I guess a hard boundary would be answering me directly, right? Like,
Okay.
because now here's why I say that. Because I've started to think that you're trying to be deceptive, which I feel this is my feelings. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like you're trying to insult my intelligence when you do that, which feels disrespectful to me. So if I
Okay.
ask you a yes or no, and you giving me this word salad and all of that, it starts to come off like you're being deceptive, and that feels disrespectful. So that's a hard boundary for me. So if I say it to you like, "Hey, I notice that you do this thing. Can you please
Hmm.
stop doing this thing because it makes me feel this way?" I feel like I shouldn't have to keep telling you that, and
I
especially
agree
like
with you to an extent, but go ahead.
because
Hmm.
I'm not the type of guy you got lied to. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know what you're lying because I don't care. Just tell me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? But yeah, that's one for me.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So that's too much. Well, that's
No,
too
I
much.
just said I agree with you to an extent
What's
because,
the
like,
extent?
because changing communicative behavior is not a simple thing to just come to do, and that's why I said to a point. Like now, I agree. Growth is a thing that happens over time and change. Some people, when all you know is like, if you're like the example, or like she said, some people were trained to be secretive or to keep things to themselves, or to not, what people say, what happened in our house, don't anybody know what business. And so you're taught from an early age to be secretive and deceptive. And when people are asking you what happened or how you genuinely feel, you're taught to see,
Hmm.
I'm okay, nothing's wrong, everything is okay, because the fear of what you don't know what the consequence is, but the fear has been implanted in you that if you do be this open, or if you do be honest, and if you do communicate well, that something bad is going to happen, is going to be detrimental. So the fear has been implanted in you for such a long time that now you want to have clear communication. And I'm not saying that you have to accept the other person who is lacking that communication. I am just saying
Hmm.
that not everybody, because you pointed out, like, hey, you're not as forthcoming or as clear with your answers, that I would like you to be, because this is where I am at. They might be
Hmm.
willing to try, but it'll take them time to try and make that their new way of communicating. That's why it says to an extent. Now, some things
Hmm.
should just be hard no's, and it's no, and that's it. But there's things
Hmm.
that I feel like growth and timing is important if you're actually growing during the time that I'm giving to you, in the grace that I'm giving to you. But you don't give grace. That's the problem with the quick blocking.
No, no, I don't, and I don't have patience. I don't have the time because I see it this way, which it could be wrong. It could be wrong.
Mm,
I see
you
it
could be
this way.
right too. You could be right.
If you're
Yeah.
used to cheating and you get with a girl and she catch you cheating and she said, "Hey, I need you to stop cheating," like
Mm-hmm.
me saying, "Let me work on that." You know what I'm saying? Like you won't be cool with hearing, "I need some time to to stop cheating." You know what I'm
That's a
saying? Like you need
hard
to
no,
do
but
it
that's
now
for
or
hard
don't.
no. That's
So
for
if I'm
hard
if
Yeah.
I'm
no.
asking you, "Hey, can you please stop doing this thing? It makes me feel disrespected." I mean, I see it the same way. Again, that could be wrong, but the
Mm-hmm.
disrespect to me is disrespect. You know what I'm saying? But hey,
Mm-hmm.
access is my biggest boundary. That's the thing with the DMs too. Like access. I don't just give out access to me personally. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why I guess I'm defensive in my inbox also because like what do you want? How can I help you?
But people feel like they can have access because you're running on a social platform that draws engagement, and they feel like they can engage with you both publicly on your platform and through your message, because you also post in your stories and people
Uh-huh.
respond, which gets them into the DM. So they still feel like they have access to you in that way. And so that's why I wanted to just kind of be,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, I mean, Night, jump in whenever you're ready if I'm not being clear enough for Jah. But
No,
Hmm.
I
that's
understand.
why I
I
feel like
understand.
you're not wrong in how you feel about it, but because of the way that it's being used and the tools that you're using with the social media platform and the page that you're on, and what you're doing and the engagement, people feel like they have some type of right which to engage with you. And they
Yeah,
might
of
not do
course.
it the way that you want, that makes you feel disrespected, which you have a right how you feel as your feelings, but that
Uh,
doesn't mean that they came with the wrong intention. Now, if I'm
well, you
if
never
your
know.
partner come to you and say, "I only want you and I only gonna be with you, John," it's gonna just be me and you forever, and then they gonna cheat on you later tonight, then they they came with the bad intention, knowing that they weren't going to do that. Now somebody else come the opposite way. It's not like they intended. They don't know how your communicative style is to come and intentionally miscommunicate to you.
I hear you. I appreciate that. I
Hmm.
get what you're
I feel
saying.
like we need to put you in the chair, John.
No,
Like
no,
now
no, no,
you
no.
could just
This
deal with
this ain't my therapy session. This is not therapy. Next question. Next question. If a man is listening right now and feels like he has to be strong all the time, what are a few practical steps he can take this week to start creating a safe space for himself emotionally?
Mm.
Um, a few steps that he can take. I would say, I think for starters, giving himself the permission that he was never given to rest, to heal, to grow. I would say that would be the first thing. I feel like sometimes the people who have raised us in the past who didn't give us that permission to, or didn't give them the permission to necessarily be a vulnerable child, and now they've grown up not feeling like they can be a vulnerable adult. I feel like sometimes we tend to wait for those other people to come and apologize, or those other people to come back and say, hey, like it wasn't right that I did this, and you should have the space to do that. And I think as adults, we have to, or I think it's important to recognize that we can give ourselves the permission to do the things that are going to benefit us. So I would say starters, give yourself the permission to rest, to heal, to grow. And then I would say reconnect and re-engage with the things that you might have lost in the past. So are you a man that used to do boxing? Did you do basketball? Did you play sports? Did you write poetry? Like, what did you do in your spare time that brought you joy, that brought you a peace of mind? Did you enjoy connecting in nature, going to the beach? And create an environment for yourself where no one else gets a say on what brings you peace and happiness. And regardless of if it's controversial or not the norm, do it anyways.
Woo, I like it. I love it. I'm loving these answers, man. You got the answers for everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am too.
I appreciate it because we need to take these actions outside into the real world, because I think sometimes people don't understand. Like they think that going to therapy is doing the work. But in my opinion, the work starts once
Hmm.
you leave the office, because the therapist, or like the therapist or the psych nurse, they give you meds, they give you instructions on what to do, and I assume they give you some ways to like help yourself after you leave. So it's not just what
Hmm.
you talk about in the session, is what you do once you get around other people, because that's where your triggers exist in the real world.
Hmm.
Because I got
Hmm.
people going like 10, 12, 20 years to therapy, but they still haven't changed.
True.
Hmm. Yeah,
What
and
do you
that's where
say
I
to
think
people who?
therapy
Oh,
is
sorry.
not
Go
a.
ahead. No,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
I was saying that that's where I think therapy is not just about talk. I feel like it's good to talk about the things that you're going to get it off of your chest. But I think we taking action is just as important. And I think initially maybe people isolate to kind of get themselves out of the constant triggers, but once we're able to regulate ourselves, it's important to put ourselves back into society and be able to learn to navigate ourselves even with those triggers, or even around people who may be trying to trigger us.
What I was gonna ask is how do we reach those individuals who feel like, oh, I wasn't raised that way, so I don't like I don't know how to be a good dad because I didn't have a good dad, or I didn't have a good example, or no one teach me how to be this or teach me how to be that. Like, how do we tap into those men who have that grounded feeling about them, in terms of what they did not have, for them to be able to know what they can become? Oh,
You still there?
I am so sorry. I think you disconnected. My service might be bad on this, and I couldn't hear what you were saying.
no problem. I can repeat myself. I was gonna ask you,
Okay.
how do we reach the man that feels like I don't know how to, that says I don't know how to because of whatever XYZ, like not having a dad or a good example at home or whatever, for them to how do we reach them for them to be able to know that they're not there's still an opportunity for them to be better or to grow and to change and to be the things that they're lacking to someone else.
So when you say how do we reach them, what do you mean exactly?
To be able to get the help that they might need in terms of if if they're stuck in a place where they want to do better but they're not really progressing because they're stuck in the things that are holding them hostage.
I so that's a tough one. I think it starts with them, I guess, admitting that they may need some help and then being open to actually getting the help. Because I feel like, like how they say we can bring the horse to the water, but we can't force it to drink. And I
Mm-hmm.
think creating safe enough situations or safe enough environments, talking about these things more often, normalizing men getting help, normalizing men expressing their feelings and emotions, showing them that there are safe spaces where they can turn to, and then recognizing that we can't necessarily force them, but we can always hold space for them for so that at any point when they do feel comfortable coming back or stepping in and taking that first leap to do the healing, that they understand that this is a space that has been created specifically for them to do that. So I feel like normalizing everything, talking about it more. I feel like male role models are also very important. I feel like men need to see more men heal. Men need to see more men talk about these things. And I feel like I can do as much talking as like I want to as a woman, but until they see a man step in and do it and make those changes, I don't feel like it has as much of an impact.
I agree completely. What is knowledge without the discipline of action? Discipline itself is a hard tool to obtain. What do you recommend you can do? So that's a question to the chat. Discipline itself is a hard tool to obtain. What do you recommend we can do to get more discipline? I guess I could pose that to you too, Nai. How can we as men work on our discipline? Because I think that is important as a man, period, to learn discipline in multiple regions, physical, emotional, spiritual, all of that. It's important. How can
Yeah.
we work on that?
I would say set your intention. Like what is your goal for yourself? How do you envision when you think of your highest self, like your optimal self, like the top version of you? How do you envision that person? How does this person act? How does this person speak? How does this person show up in the world? How does this person operate on a day-to-day basis? And when you think of the highest version of yourself, I would say start doing the little things. And I think discipline only comes from consistency. I feel like you have to do, or we have to do things consistently so that it becomes routine, so that it becomes habit. And I feel like motivation is a lie because sometimes we're motivated to do things and sometimes we're not. But at the end of the day, recognizing that it's not always about being motivated to do it, it's about doing it because we understand that this is for our greater good, this is important for building our character. And I would also say don't try to start with the big steps. I would say start with little things first. If you have a hard time completing, um, let's say you have homework to do and you have a large essay to write, it's a 5-page essay. Instead of sitting down and trying to accomplish everything in one day, how about we start with the little steps? If I do this part today, that part tomorrow, over time, your body starts to get into a routine, your mind starts to get into the routine of things. And then eventually it becomes a habit, and then you get the thing done. You're not in a fight or flight mode to rush to get things completed at the end of the day. And then since it becomes a routine, it becomes normal habit. And I feel like that's how we build discipline, just consistency over time.
All right, all right. Uh, Sosa has said grace is key. Understand that the race is only within yourself. Small wins daily. Create routine. That's very
Mhm.
important because sometimes we look at the overall goal, but we don't chop it up and we don't reward ourselves in small ways to keep going. And I love when you said that motivation is a lie. I love that. because
Yes.
that's very true. Because every day you ain't gonna wake up as motivated as that first day when you saw that video and you were like, "Yeah, I gonna do this." So
Yeah.
that's if you'll allow me a little leeway, right? Because
Ooh.
it's funny that we've been talking about men's mental health and stuff, and some of the stuff that you said is actually a part of a poem that that Sosa did that he sent me earlier today. I don't know if he knew we were going to be talking about it, but he sent me the poem. It was dope, and now he wants you to play it. I guess he wants you to to kind of rate the poem. You tell me if you
He
allow me. I'll
he
play.
actually sent it to me too. Absolutely. Yeah. And I told him if he plays it, puts it on his page, I will absolutely share it to mine. But
You didn't send
play,
it to me,
I think it's
but someone hear it.
All right,
yeah, I think it was oh.
right now I just uploaded. Here we go.
I've seen this Men's Mental Health Month. And with it, I've been seeing men posting, asking, what the hell is this? Nobody cares anyway, you know. They beg us to talk, and when we do, I just listen, and I feel the temperature, and I had some thoughts, so I started talking what to do with my thoughts. This one is called Under Condition. They talk a lot about unconditional love, but nobody talks about being loved under condition. Conditioned to be strong, conditioned to be silent, conditioned to carry weight without ever asking who put it there.
Wow.
See me, I grew up in the Caribbean, and before I knew who I was, the world was already teaching me who I should be. Don't move until you finish a plate of food. So I learned consumption before I learned moderation. Stop crying. Stop whining. Stop acting like a girl. And just like that, a little boy learns his feelings have agenda. Not agenda, but
I got it. That's awesome. That's awesome. Got a gender. Go ahead, Sosa.
so he swallows them again and again and again. Until one day, he's 35 years old trying to explain a feeling he was never allowed to have. And then they ask, why don't men communicate? Who the hell teach us? That's why the Brotherhood Collective exists. We were taught endurance, not expression. Performance, not presence. We were taught to be rocks, but nobody asks the rock what happened when it cracks. We were conditioned to conquer. I remember marbles. The goal wasn't community. The goal was ownership. Whoever had the most marbles win. And somewhere in that lesson, a little boy learns that value comes from acquisition. So later it becomes money, cars, chains,
Women.
The more you collect, the more of a man you become.
Wow.
And then society acts surprised when men start treating validation like oxygen. Women had conditions too. Barbie dolls, toy kitchens, baby dolls, all my children. Conditioned to nurture, conditioned to care, just conditioned to pour. And when those conditions fail them, many of them ran to the opposite extreme and give up on love. I can't say blame I. Because that's what people do. We swing like pendulums. One generation says feel nothing, then the next says feel everything. One generation says stay in the house. The next says never need anyone. One generation controls, the next rejects structure. Hey, oi. Kian, tell them I hold it down over them. Sorry about that.
That's all right. You right, so.
One generation says stay in the house, the next says never need anyone. One generation controls, the next rejects structure. And somewhere in the middle, truth gets lost. Because healing isn't the opposite of conditioning. Healing is understanding what served you and what never did. It's keeping discipline without emotional repression. Keeping strength without emotional isolation. It's keeping love without self-sacrifice. It's keeping masculinity without abandoning humanity. And maybe that's why Men's Mental Health Month matters. Because some men weren't just hurt, some men were trained to ignore the injury. Some men never reported abuse because they thought surviving it made them stronger. Some men never cried because tears were treated like character flaws. Some men spent decades being loved under condition. Love that they provide, love that they perform, love that they endure, love that
I can't hear it
never
anymore.
fell apart.
You couldn't hear it anymore after.
I can't hear you either.
Mm-mm. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I
Yes,
hear
I
you.
can.
Okay.
Naiema, you can't hear me?
Don't see. This is where see you ready. See, this is the hard boundary. Okay, we can't hear you. It's okay. Don't be frustrated. It's okay.
Hey.
But Sosa, thank you for that. That was very profound. I love how it was done, how it was said, how it was easy to digest and hard to digest at the same time. I think that's something we definitely need to share continually because it's a message a lot of men need to hear and receive.
I can't hear you, Nisi.
What?
You can't hear me?
No.
What is going
So
on?
Jack
I can't hear
kicked me
Jah
out,
either.
and now I
So nobody could hear me? Like, what's going on?
I could hear you now.
Naima, can you hear me?
You can hear me?
I could hear everybody. I don't know what's going on.
You can't hear me.
No. I'm gonna exit and come back.
Yeah. So yeah, what did you think about that poem? It wasn't I know I could hear everything. I don't know what's going on with them two. I always could hear everybody and the video. I don't know what's up.
The video was you could hear me?
Yeah, we all could hear you.
No, I know. She just said she couldn't hear me either. So I was just making sure you can hear me.
No, I think it's when Naima dropped off something glitched.
Yeah, I was just saying that to Sosa. Like, I didn't hear the end of the last whatever. But I think that the message was profound. It was needed, and it needs to be repetitively distributed for our men, especially our local men, to understand that there's so much that was placed on their shoulders, but they have an opportunity to dismantle that and then choose what battles they can carry and which ones they no longer need to justify themselves.
I hope Naima could hear me. I hope she can.
Yes.
Yeah, all right,
Yes,
cool.
yes.
'Cause
Okay, I can hear her too.
Yeah. I just got two more questions before we wrap up. I don't know, Nisi might have some more, but like in relation, it goes along with that. In relation to what Sosa was saying and men's relationship with women and mental health, what would you suggest, right? For the women in our lives, what are some do's and don'ts for supporting men's mental health that they can do without shaming us or getting disrespectful? What are some ways they can do it?
Do's and don'ts. Let's start with don'ts. I would say, as you started off, not shaming a man for being vulnerable in that moment, not taking the things that he expresses to us and then using that against him, not telling him that he may be dramatic for the way that he's feeling, he may be too emotional for expressing the things that he's expressing. So, not shutting someone down for being brave enough to be vulnerable in that moment. And then do's, I think listening to understand, listening to hear where they're coming from without trying to necessarily solve their problems, always creating a safe space where they can feel comfortable coming back and having those conversations with us. I think being as supportive as possible, watching the way that we may say things or respond, because sometimes I feel like our intentions are good, but the way we might say it may not come off as the most supportive or the most considerate way. So just trying to be mindful that this moment is not about us. This moment is about the men that we love coming to us and being vulnerable and trying our best to have or create a safe enough environment where they can do that and then feel comfortable coming back to us to do that. And I can say uh, as someone, like I said, has been working on this healing journey for 4 years, I can say like it has taken me work. It has taken me a lot of effort to recognize where I wasn't being as supportive, where I wasn't being as considerate, where I was not being someone that man could come to and lean on. So now I'm very, very intentional about the things that I do, the things that I say, how I say them, when to approach conversations, when to just back off and maybe revisit this conversation at another time, and trying to maintain healthy relationships and healthy boundaries in those dynamics.
True, true. Thank you. Now,
What are some things that they can do? Because you kind of mostly said the don't.
Oh, can?
No, I don't want it to be overlooked. She did a lot of things that we should, and I agree with everything she said.
what are the
Listening.
four
But what can
do's?
we? Yes.
I think I said I don't know if I broke up, but I was saying dues where we being more supportive.
Okay.
So being more supportive, being more understanding, being more compassionate, creating safe spaces where they can come to us and actually have those conversations, listening to understand, not listening to respond.
I heard that.
Yes, I heard
Yeah,
that.
okay, understanding them, not trying to change them or change their perspective. Because I feel like we all kind of do things in our own way. And I think also, and this is a transparency moment, like I said, constructive criticism. I think it's important when you have healthy community to be able to bounce ideas and bounce perspectives back on each other, because I wouldn't be a good friend to you if I just agree with everything you're saying, knowing that you may be self-sabotaging. So I think that's important as well. But then learning to communicate in healthier ways.
I think the listening part is very important because sometimes you just wear all your ears for style, but yeah,
That's why I said yes to do the do's, because she kind of mixed it
I
in with the
heard
don'ts,
her
and I
say
know
the
it gonna
do's.
just be like I just wanted to separate it out a little bit. That's all.
No problem, no problem.
I and also along that same line, our interaction with our female counterparts can be difficult to navigate because sometimes we end up in these boxes, right? Where okay, sometimes we could get put into the provide and protect box, and that's
Hmm.
all that we're expected to do, but
Yeah.
we're also expected to be nurturing, loving, caring, unselfish, all these other things also while staying in the box. You get what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's like white men don't shut up and just go to war, or you know what I'm saying? But you also want me to help dishes, but now you want me to be able to take on your vulnerability and your feelings and your emotions, but you still want me to just die and go to war. Like, how do we provide and protect, be a full man with all emotions that come along with it, and still be able to interact with women and keep our mental health in check? What should we do? How do we do it? Is there a way?
You're asking me questions I don't really know. Okay, so let me.
You didn't
I
get
was
there
like,
yet.
ooh,
This is not okay. That's
this is
exactly
like
what
solving
that's trying
world
to say.
peace. Like, ooh.
So okay, my interpretation of it. I feel like sometimes we may come into relationships seeking what we can get from someone else rather than what value do we bring to the relationship. And
Mm,
I
Mm,
think instead of trying to seek what we can gain from other people, coming to relationships healed, and I don't say when I say healed, I mean healing because I don't feel like anyone's ever fully healed, but healing to the point where you're able to recognize triggers and trauma responses and then connecting with someone who has been on the same journey as you so that we come into the relationship understanding that we are here to work together as a team. There may be some days where you show up at 10% and I may have to carry 90 today. There may be days where I show up at 5% and you may have to carry 95. And we understand that there are days where we're going to come together and everything's going to be great. And I feel like recognizing that also we're humans. We're going to have moments when we're going to fall short. We're going to go through struggles and not putting so much responsibility or putting so much expectations on each other to be perfect beings, like this perfect man that's supposed to come and do all of these things and this perfect woman that's supposed to come and do all of these things. Show up as ourselves, show up as humans, give leeway where it needs to be given. And if you have an opportunity or you have the ability to show up for your partner, show up. Don't come into relationships with the mentality of what can I take.
mm, facts. Facts. Nisi, you have any more questions before we wrap?
Um, yes. A very simple question. I just want you to give the men an easy 1, 2, 3 of things that they can do now. Um, just in terms of figuring out how to improve their mental health. I mean, maybe a recommendation for a book for them to read, or just things that tap into them in a way that they can be like, you know what, I need to take an active approach towards my mental health.
I would say, I think it all starts mentally. When I say mentally, I think the way that we think and the way that we process. And I love to say envision the highest version of yourself. How do you envision yourself being the most optimal man that you can be? And showing up in that way. And I think it's all like connecting with the things that you enjoy doing. If therapy may be a stretch, because I feel like telling people like start therapy is like, I don't know if I'm in the mental space to even start therapy. But I feel like trying to give yourself permission to heal and grow. And then I think again, connecting with the things that you enjoy doing that bring you peace, taking time outside of focusing on everybody else. And even if it's 30 minutes a day, even if it's an hour a day, and focus on you. What do you enjoy? What do you need in this moment? What brings you peace right now? And pouring little by little into yourselves until you can get to that point where you're willing to now start therapy and do the deeper healing. But I feel like it starts small with the little things until we can take that leap to go deeper.
And I think as men also we need to understand that our healing is not it doesn't all look the same. Sometimes like what may work for him may not work for you. So you gotta try a bunch of different ways until you find
Yeah.
something that actually is therapeutic. And we have to
Hmm.
understand like a lot often I find that women's healing process is softer, right? And I think we as men need to realize what healing looks for like for us can be
Hmm.
different. Like
Yeah.
sometimes it's you working on your car. Sometimes it's you playing the video game. Sometimes it's you hitting the
Hmm.
punching bag or going to the gym. Sometimes it's harder. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you may need to throw some axes or chop a tree or something, but do what works for you. Don't
Yeah.
just like you might not be into meditation, but there's something out there for you. There's a way.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with them.
And lastly, I just want, because you have an important initiative going right now, the Safe Spaces initiative. So if you could tell the
Yeah.
people what that is and how to find you
Mhm.
on your socials and whatnot, how to contact you, please let us know.
Mhm. Okay, so I started a platform, movement, community. It's called Safe Space Submissions, and basically, what Safe Space Submissions is, it is an anonymous, free-based platform where I created a Google Form doc that asks a series of questions, and basically, it allows you to tell your story. It allows you to get things off of your chest. It creates a space where you can literally talk about anything that you're going through. I don't know who's submitting the information. I don't attach any names or any emails, any phone numbers to the document. And you submit your story to me. You tell me what you need in the space. And then I would create a video response for you with your name in the thumbnail and in the description. And you can have a space where you can remain anonymous. You don't have to be extremely vulnerable to where people I can identify you. And you can pretty much have a free venting session. You can talk about what you're going through, get something off of your chest, feel seen, feel heard, feel guided, supported. And yeah, and if you're willing to continue having the conversations, if you need more advice, you can always resubmit your stories. And if you just got what you needed from me in that moment and you feel more reset and refreshed and you feel better to tackle the world, then either way, I'm happy with it. But the reason why I started this is because when I started my healing journey, I wasn't vulnerable or comfortable being vulnerable in certain moments. I didn't want people to tie my story to my face. I didn't want people to know what I was going through because I feel like sometimes people pretend to be supportive, but in reality, they just want to get your information to throw things back at you. And I
Right.
feel like that's where the anonymous part of it comes in. So yeah, I have the link in my TikTok bio. My TikTok is island.nursenai, Nai, and it's also in my Facebook bio as well. It's free. You can submit your stories. No one has to know who you are. Get these things off of your chest, release, let go, talk about it, and then let's heal and move forward.
Yes.
Amazing. Amazing. All right. Any final words for our viewers? Anything they need to know, they need to hear?
I want to just second that your healing journey is your journey. And I second that your healing journey doesn't look like anyone else's journey. Healing is a process. I might say it's a lifelong process because we are continuously growing, we are continuously changing. We are never the same version of ourselves that we were before, especially if we're putting that effort in to change and to heal. So understand that healing is your right. Healing is your privilege. Healing is a space that you can create for yourself where you can uncondition yourself from all of the things that you were taught to believe that were false. And understand that the healing journey is a beautiful journey. It is nothing to be ashamed of. And give yourself that ability, give yourself that privilege to step into doing something positive for yourself, regardless of what anybody else thinks about it. It's not soft to heal. I think that's one of the hardest things, the bravest things that someone can do in their life. So I hope this podcast has helped you guys to really step out of your comfort zone a little bit, to change the perspective on how you think about healing, and to hopefully someday take the step to begin your healing journey.
Hey, there it is. Love it. We love it. All right, Nisi. Nisi, what's your final words, ma'am?
My final words would be thank you, Nai, for coming on and providing some meaningful insight into the things that men can do in terms of working on their mental health. Thank you also for taking the initiative on your own to advance yourself professionally in order to reach our men in our community and to hopefully build a new generation of men that are healthy and willing to work on their mental health and do all the work that needs to be done. As you said, it's a journey. It's a lifelong journey, and it's not something that you're going to fix today for tomorrow. You never have to work on it again. And so I appreciate you doing that, and having your professional wisdom to do so. I also want to say I like your artwork in the back. I was staring at it the whole
Thank
time. It's
you.
very beautiful. So thank you for that amazing women mural. As you can see, I have like three little ones over my head behind me.
Yes, thank you.
So I did catch that, and I want to say for those of you who are listening, we hope that you hear something that you can tap into, something that makes you want to take that first step, even if it's a tiny step, to working on your
Mhm.
mental health. For those who are actually asking questions and participating, thank you for being vulnerable and being willing to ask questions that someone else may be unwilling to ask. Hopefully that
Mhm.
helps you as well. And thank you to those who this will reach afterwards once we share the video and so forth, that there's something in here for you or for someone that you may know that they can use as a tool. Because one Maria said, one fill basket, and we have to fill our basket
Mhm.
with
Yeah.
healthy men in our community who work, who doing these things. And so thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it. It has been lovely talking to you.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for tuning in to this live stream episode of the Same Difference podcast. Big thanks to our guest, Nurse Nai, for breaking down men's mental health and reminding us that safe spaces aren't just buzzwords. They're something we have to intentionally build and protect. If this conversation hit home for you, share it with a man that you care about and keep the dialogue going
Mhm.
in your own circles. Make sure you follow, subscribe, and tap in with us on our socials so you don't miss the next episode. Until next time, we have a different day with Jah Crucian Gal Neci every Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. We'll be back Monday. We have another episode also Monday. Sosa's coming on because he has an initiative of his own. We have the Mothers and Mentors Mixer, so he's coming on to talk about that event. So check us out then. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for coming on. Nai, this was amazing. We really appreciate you.
Thank
I
you.
hope that you
Thank
follow.
you.
Don't necessarily follow the Facebook. You can follow everything else. The Facebook might be a little aggressive. Well, and the YouTube and stuff. Yeah, but we will be posting clips. So keep up with that, and if you can share the clips that we post to your audience and vice versa, so they can see what's going on. Also, all right,
Definitely.
awesome, awesome. All right, guys, we love you very much. We appreciate y'all coming. That's it for us. We gonna hop
Yeah.
out of here. We gone. See you. Peace.
Bye. Thanks again.
Peace.